Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the fourth session in our special seminar series commemorating the 25th anniversary of UNIGIS Portugal and the Master in Geographic Information Systems and Science. Over the past quarter century, this program has played a central role in training Portugal's geospatial professionals, advancing GI science, and shaping the way we understand and manage our world through geographic information. Today, we are diving into a fascinating and fast-evolving topic: how marine data is enabling digital twins of the ocean. The idea is to create dynamic virtual representations of the ocean by integrating data from satellites, sensors, buoys, and models. These digital twins allow us to better understand ocean processes, monitor changes in near real time, and even simulate future scenarios. From tracking climate impacts to supporting marine spatial planning and disaster response, this approach is opening new possibilities. It's a great example of how geospatial technologies, data science, and environmental monitoring come together to tackle some of the most complex challenges facing our planet today. Today's seminar will highlight how these approaches are applied in practice, showing how marine data and digital twin technologies can support ocean monitoring and contribute to more informed decisions for sustainability, marine management, and climate resilience. Telmo Dias is an officer in the Portuguese Navy, as well as a lecturer and PhD student at Nova Information Management School. His work focuses on marine data, hydrography, and ocean observation systems, with a strong emphasis on the integration of geospatial and oceanographic information. He is actively involved in initiatives related to digital twins of the ocean, contributing to data-driven approaches for monitoring and understanding marine environments. His profile brings together operational maritime experience and academic research, offering a valuable perspective on advancing ocean intelligence and sustainable marine management. Please join me in welcoming Commander Telmo Dias. Telmo, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Professor Marco, for the introduction. And thank you all for being here today. So today I will talk about marine data as the foundation that allows us to better understand the ocean, to simulate it, and eventually to build the digital twins of the ocean. So these digital twins of the ocean are often presented as advanced digital systems combining models, artificial intelligence, visualization, and high-performance computing. All of that is important, but behind every digital twin, there is a more basic requirement that is data. So observations of the real ocean become data, data becomes information and knowledge, and with models and computational tools, this knowledge can support prediction, and prediction can then support better decisions. So this is the path that connects marine data to digital twins of the ocean. And the presentation that I will give today is organized into 5 main parts. So first, I will try to explain why the ocean is so important. Then I will move to ocean data, how we collect it, and why finding it, accessing it, and reusing it, it's still a major challenge. After that, I will introduce the concept of digital twins with a focus on the ocean. Next, I will show some examples of current initiatives and applications such as D2, Edi2, and DataZ. And in the conclusion, some final remarks. So let us start with the first question. So why does the ocean matter? So the ocean covers around 71% of the Earth's surface, so understanding the ocean is essential to understanding the global Earth system. And the ocean influences climate, ecosystems, transport, food, coastal communities, and the global economy. So the ocean is not only large, but much of it is also beyond national jurisdiction. So around 64% of the ocean is considered high seas. So these areas do not belong to a single country, but they are essential for biodiversity, climate regulation, transport, and also global resources. So this means that observing, managing, and protecting the ocean requires international cooperation, and that marine data must also be shared across borders, institutions, and also scientific communities. The ocean is also essential for regulating life and climate on Earth. So marine organisms produce a large share of the oxygen we breathe, and the ocean absorbs a significant part of the carbon dioxide released into the atmosphere. So the ocean is not only affected by climate change, and in fact, it also helps regulate the climate system. The ocean is also directly connected to human life, so around 40% of the global population lives near the coast, where we find cities, ports, tourism, fisheries, energy infrastructures, and many other activities. And these coastal areas are valuable, but they are also exposed to storms, erosion, flooding, and sea level rise. So ocean data is also essential for coastal planning and also for risk reduction. The ocean is also a major space for human activity. So around 80% of global trade by volume is transported by sea, and fishing activity depends directly on ocean ecosystems. So any limitation to the use of the sea can have major consequences, as we have seen recently with tensions around the Strait of Hormuz and with the blockage some years ago of the Suez Canal. So the ocean is also a strategic space for transport, food, energy, and the global economy. And the ocean also supports a less visible but essential part of modern life, that is digital connectivity. So almost all international digital traffic depends on submarine cables that are laid across the seabed. And these cables support internet services, financial transactions, cloud infrastructure, and everyday communication. So the ocean is also a critical infrastructure for the digital society that we live in. And despite its importance, the ocean is under increasing pressure. So these pressures include pollution, mainly from plastic, overfishing, biodiversity loss, coral bleaching, harmful algal blooms, deoxygenation, and underwater noise. Many of these problems are linked to human activity and are intensified also by climate change. And at the same time, the extreme weather events and environmental degradation are becoming major long-term risks with strong impacts on both ocean ecosystems and also on coastal communities. So despite its importance, the ocean remains one of the least observed parts of the Earth system. So the quote on this slide, I think it captures the challenge very well. So we cannot manage what we do not measure, and we cannot protect what we do not understand. So improving ocean knowledge is critical to use it in a safe and sustainable way. And a clear example of this knowledge gap is, for instance, seabed mapping. So the mapping of the seafloor of the entire oceans. So today, only about 28% of the global seabed has been mapped in high resolution. So this means that for most of the ocean floor, our knowledge is still based on limited measurements and lower resolution estimates. And here is an example. I present you the Portuguese coverage that is roughly around 60% nowadays. So even for something that is as fundamental as the shape of the seabed, we still have important gaps in ocean knowledge. So if the ocean is essential, it is under pressure and still not fully understood, the next question would be, how can we improve ocean knowledge? So the answer starts with data. So we need to observe better, to share better, and reuse this data in a smarter way. So improving ocean knowledge is not only about collecting more data, it is also about making the existing marine data more available, also more understandable, and also more useful. So I will now move to the second part of the presentation. So I will talk a little bit about ocean data and how it is collected and shared. So collecting ocean data is challenging because the ocean, it's not a single uniform space. So we need observations from the surface, also from the water column and from the seabed. Each of these three domains has different processes, different variables, different sensors and observation methods. So some techniques observe the surface through, for instance, satellites. Others use sound to observe the water column and the seabed. So marine data is diverse by nature, and one of the main challenges is integrating all these different sensors, all these different data formats and resolutions into a coherent picture of the global ocean. Ocean observation faces several practical constraints. So the first one is range. So how far and how deep can we observe? The second would be endurance. How long can sensors or platforms operate in the sea? And the third is timeliness. So how quickly can the data become available and then useful? So for instance, remote sensing gives us broad and repeated coverage, especially at the surface. In situ observations give us direct measurements, including below the surface, but they are usually more expensive and harder to maintain. Ocean observation looks like a continuous task. We are always trying to improve coverage, always trying to improve the resolution, the accuracy, and also the access to the marine data. So after collecting ocean data, the next challenge is finding it and making it usable. So traditionally, large volumes of marine data are collected, but now not all of them are published. And even when data is published, it is not always easy to find, access, understand, or reuse. So this creates a gap between the data that exists and the data that can actually support science, policy, and the digital twins of the ocean. So this is why the FAIR principles are so important. So the principles say that data should be findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. And to achieve this, we need, for instance, complete metadata, clear interfaces, common standards, and also information about licensing and also about provenance of the data. So finding marine data is not only about the search engines or data catalogs, it also depends on common concepts and also on common language. So here you can see example of the essential ocean variables from the Global Ocean Observing System, the GOOS. These variables help define what should be observed, while controlled vocabularies, such those from the NERC Vocabulary Center, can help describe observations in a consistent way. So this is important because different institutions may use different names for the same variable, and without standard terms, data becomes harder to discover, to compare, and also to integrate. So data indexing is also about semantic interoperability, so making marine data understandable across different systems, different institutions, and also different countries, for instance. So after data indexing, the next challenge is accessibility. So here's an example of a platform, a web platform that is OceanOps. So this platform gives visibility to global ocean observing systems and to the platforms collecting data at sea. It also helps users to understand where observations are being collected, which networks are active, and where may be gaps, data gaps. So accessibility is not only about simply downloading the data, it's also about making observation systems visible, traceable, and also reliable and consistent. Another example of data accessibility is the Copernicus Marine In Situ Thematic Assembly Center, In Situ Ocean Tech. So in situ data is collected by many platforms, as we've seen in the initial slide, and organizations, including buoys, tide gauges, ships, gliders, mooring systems, and coastal stations. And this type of service brings distributed observations together. It also applies common procedures and makes the data easier to access and reuse. So for the digital twins of the ocean, this is essential because they need reliable observations from many different official sources or authoritative sources. These examples are part of a broader marine data ecosystem that involves many institutions, also several platforms and systems at different levels. So marine data traditionally does not come from a single source. It is produced, it is managed and shared by many institutions, by many networks and platforms working at different levels. Here you can see an example of an organization, as for instance, at international level, we have global coordination and standards. Then at the European level, systems such as Copernicus Marine Service, EMODNet, CDataNet, and Eurogus help organize and provide access to the data. And then at the national level, here we can see example of Portugal. Each country has its own institutions and also its monitoring system. So the real value appears when these systems are connected and are interoperable. So this ecosystem can also be understood through the hierarchy of the spatial data infrastructures. So institutions manage the data at their organizational level, then countries provide national infrastructures. And in this case, for regional, we are talking about European initiatives that, for instance, connect data across the region, and global systems then support international coordination. For the specific case of marine spatial data, we also need a thematic layer that connects these levels. So this is the importance of a national oceanographic data center that can play this role by organizing the marine data nationally and then connecting it to the European and also to the international infrastructures. So after looking at this wider ecosystem, we can dive into a simple technical structure of an infrastructure. So a marine spatial data infrastructure connects four main components. So data catalogs, services, and also applications. So the data stores the observation and measurements. The catalog describes the data and makes it discoverable or findable. And then the services or the APIs allow users and systems to access it. And then the applications transform data into useful products that can be tools or knowledge. So the goal is not only to store marine data, but to create a pathway that goes from data to knowledge and eventually from spatial data infrastructures into spatial knowledge infrastructures. So once data is findable and accessible, the next challenge is using it. So users need to process the data, to combine it with other sources, analyze it, and build models that others can understand and can trust. So here you can see some examples of this model. Here on the left, you can see a static 3D model for, you can see here for ocean temperature, for instance. Here on the right, you can see a prediction model for the sea state. So for the wave height, wave direction, and wave period. And here on the right bottom, you can see real-time measurements of underwater acoustics that are directly linked to a vessel layer. So you can see the acoustics, the intensity of the acoustic signal, and then you can see the equivalent vessel at the surface. So if data models and workflows are used to support science or to support the digital twins that we'll see next, they need to be reproducible. So a reproducible workflow means that the steps used to transform data into results are clear, are documented, and also are repeatable. So this includes the data sources, the processing steps, the methods, the parameters that were used, the scripts, the assumptions, and also the data provenance. So here you can see an example of a virtual lab architecture. So this is a virtual research environment where data scientists can access, can process, and then can combine data to produce specific products. So this centralized environment is important because marine data, besides science, often supports operational services and decision making. So if we want others to trust and reuse the results or the products, they need to understand how those results were produced. And this slide shows some examples of virtual labs of a project, the Blue Cloud project. So the main point is that the same type of environment, the virtual lab, can support very different applications that goes from coastal currents and plankton genomics to environmental indicators and global fishery products. So virtual labs are useful because they bring data, they bring the tools, they bring the workflows together into one place, while still supporting different kind of users, different use cases or different ends, and different scientific domains. So far, we looked at the ocean data, how it is collected, how it is made accessible and used through reproducible workflows. So now we move to the next step, that is the creation and the architecture of digital twins of the ocean. So the idea of digital twins evolved from earlier concepts such as mirror worlds, the metaverse, virtual environments, and mirrored spaces connecting physical and digital systems. In 2002, for instance, Michael Greaves proposed a model linking the real space to the virtual space and the connection between them. And later in 2010, NASA used the term digital twin to describe a simulation that was supported by models and also by sensor data. So since then, this concept has become increasingly popular as a way to monitor, also to simulate and support decisions in complex systems. So a digital twin is basically a way to represent and analyze a complex real-world system. In simple terms, it connects a physical entity with a virtual entity. And in this case, the physical entity, of course, is the real ocean. The virtual entity is a digital representation of the ocean that is supported by data, models, visualization tools, and also computational methods. So the key point is the connection between the two. So observations update the virtual representation, and the virtual representation helps us understand the past, also to monitor the present and to explore possible future scenarios. However, not every digital representation is a digital twin, so there is a distinction between digital model, digital shadow, and digital twin. So digital model has a manual connection with the real system. A digital shadow has an automatic flow of data from the physical system to the digital system, and the digital twin goes further, so with automatic and bidirectional connections. So this means that observations update the virtual representation, and the virtual representation can support decisions or actions in the real system. So for the ocean, this is especially challenging because as we saw before, it is large, it is dynamic, and is also very difficult to observe continuously. This slide presents a useful reference paper for understanding the digital twin concept. So this paper is relevant because digital twin is a term that is used in many different ways across industry and academia. So in this paper, the authors consolidated the main terminology, the processes, and the characteristics of digital twin. So the key message here is that a digital twin is more than just a model or just a simulation. It is a connected system that links the physical and virtual entities through data flows, processes, and interactions. So if you apply the digital twin concept to the ocean, we can think about two connected spaces, so the physical ocean and then the virtual ocean. So the physical ocean is the real environment we want to observe and to understand. To represent it digitally, we need sensors and observation systems that can collect the data in specific places and in specific time. We also need to consider the processes that control ocean conditions, such as currents, tides, waves, temperature, salinity, and also biological processes. And finally, we need to include human interaction because people use, people affect, and people manage the ocean. So the physical side of a digital twin is not only the ocean itself, it also includes observations, processes, and human activities. On the virtual side, we may not have only one digital ocean, but several virtual representations of different ocean variables. So for example, we can represent temperature, we can represent salinity, oxygen, nutrients, chlorophyll, pH, currents, waves, or sea level. And to build these virtual oceans, we need visualization tools to export the data. We need models to simulate the ocean processes, and also artificial intelligence to detect patterns or also to support predictions. But the key element here is synchronization. So the physical ocean and the virtual ocean needs to be connected in space and time, so that the digital representation remains updated, remains useful, and also remains reliable. So this slide gives a broader view of what is needed to design a digital twin of the ocean. I will not go through every component in detail, but the important point is the end-to-end architecture that is represented here. So here on the left side, we have the data sources, the sensors, the observation systems, the data repositories, and also other data providers. Then this data needs to pass through data providers, catalogs, semantic harmonization, and data spaces. And this is where many of the topics that we discussed earlier in this presentation become important. So metadata, the standards, the interoperability, and the access services. And here we have the digital twin itself, combining data storage, modeling and analytic services, applications, and semantic harmonization. And finally, here on the right side, we have the user-facing components. So maps, plots, 2D and 3D visualizations, virtual reality, augmented reality, and other interfaces. So the key here is that the digital twin of the ocean is like an ecosystem that connects data, services, models, applications, and also the users. So I will now show a few examples of current digital twins of current digital twins of the ocean initiatives. So the first example is D2, the Digital Twins of the Ocean Decade Program. So D2 is an international initiative that supports the development and the coordination of digital twins of the ocean. It is not a specific platform. It is more about creating a common vision, connecting communities, and promoting the data, the models, and the tools and the services that are needed to make digital twins of the ocean useful. This slide shows the vision of the D2 regarding the main components that are behind a digital twin of the ocean. So once more, we need an observing network to connect with the physical ocean. We also need the data space to organize and share the data. We need the analytics and forecasting to transform data into predictions and useful information. And we need the interaction and the visualization tools so that users can export the results and support the decisions they need to make. So D2 also organized its work through several working groups. Each group normally focuses on a different part of the digital twin ecosystem, so observations, data systems, the prediction engines, interoperability, visualization, architecture, implementation, education, and also capacity development. And this shows that building digital twins of the ocean requires coordination between several actors that go from data providers, modelers, software developers, infrastructure managers, decision makers, and also the users. Another important initiative is EDITU, that is the European Digital Twin Ocean Platform. So EDITU brings together marine data, models, processing tools, visualization, and user access. And this slide highlights two components, the EDITU Infra, which supports the data and the infrastructure side, and then the EDITU Model Lab, which supports modeling and simulation. So for example, in EDITU Model Lab, you can explore and adapt existing use cases and workflows, and you can reuse numerical and machine learning models and use high-performance computing resources. And this slide shows EDITU from a more operational perspective. So the idea here is to provide an environment where different ocean data sources, models, tools, and services can be connected and made available to users. And this is important because a digital twin of the ocean is not useful if it remains only a technical system. So if it has no practical application, so it needs to support real users such as scientists, policymakers, or public authorities, and also other communities. And this slide shows a more visual example of the EDITU platform. Here, this image illustrates the diversity of the data sources that are being integrated, that goes from Sentinel satellites and in situ sensors to marine spatial data infrastructures such as Copernicus Marine Service and also a ModNet. And the importance of this is that the Digital Twin Ocean platform needs to connect many different sources of data rather than relying on a single data set or a single system or a single source of information. And this slide shows some examples of applications and demonstrators that are available through EDITU. So they cover different use cases, such as coastal services and plastic pollution simulators, for instance. And beyond visualizing data, digital twin is also about the creation of services that can support specific questions and decisions that can be replicated to other scenarios. So the final example of this presentation is DataZ. This is Digital Twin Initiative for the Azores free technological zone. So this is an interesting case because the Azores represent a very large maritime area with important environmental, scientific, technological, and economic relevance. So the goal here was to support real-time monitoring of the ocean dynamics and also biodiversity, strengthen climate resilience, support marine spatial planning and environmental protection, and help establish the Azores as a smart ocean territory. So in this context, this project, DataZ, brings together many of the elements that we discussed earlier, so observations, marine data infrastructures, models, visualization services, and decision support. So it is also connected to different stakeholders, so the users, including policymakers, maritime safety and security agencies, blue economy actors, and also scientific communities. So this example shows how digital twins can move from broad concepts that we saw earlier and platforms to specific territories, specific needs, and specific user communities. And this slide focuses on the observation and the measurements layer of DataZ. So the digital twin of Azores free technological zone needs continuous data from different parts of the ocean system. This includes surface and also meteorological data such as wave and wind conditions, surface temperature, and also atmospheric pressure. It also includes water quality monitoring with variables such as dissolved oxygen, turbidity, salinity, and pH, acidity. And another important component is the underwater noise, which is relevant for monitoring human activities and their possible impacts on marine life. And finally, it also includes subsurface hydrodynamics such as temperature, currents, and water level. And finally, this scheme shows the broader DataZ architecture for the numerical modeling of the Azores technological free zone. So here on the left side, we can see the data input of this digital twin. So we have observations from the satellites. We have also gliders that are being deployed, hydrophones, animal-borne sensors, CTD sensors, and remote sensing satellites. And then in the center here, we can see that this data will feed different models covering physical ocean conditions, seabed and ecosystems processes, rainfall and runoff, wind and weather, and surrogate models. Here, this example is for faster simulations. And below that, the integration layer brings these components together into a digital twin platform with data ingestion, model coordination, simulation management, visualization, and user interaction. And finally, here on the right side, we have the applications that go from marine protected area monitoring to climate and biodiversity tracking, species detection, security and defense, and also education and community engagement. So this project DataZ shows that observations and models can be connected to practical services, in this case for a specific ocean territory that is Azores. So final considerations, why are digital twins important? In many ocean and coastal events, so the value of a decision decreases as time passes. So if data is collected late, is analyzed late, is delivered late, or acted on late, part of that value is lost. So we can identify three main latencies that are related with data. So the first delay is data latency. So this is the time between collecting data and making it available to users or systems. So to reduce this delay, data needs to be accessible and suitable, accessible through clear services or interfaces, as we saw, and suitable for the intended use. So if data is not available when it is needed, the decision value decreases. The second delay is analysis latency. So this is the time needed to transform available data into useful information. To reduce this delay, data needs to be usable and have integrity. So usable here means it can be processed, combined, and reused efficiently. And integrity means that users can trust the data, its provenance, its quality, and its processing steps. So if data is available but difficult to use or hard to trust, decisions are usually delayed. And the third delay is decision latency. So this is the time between producing information and taking action. So to reduce this delay, information needs to be perceptible, so clear, understandable, and also easy to interpret. So the goal is not only to provide data, but to provide information that users can understand and act upon. So, and this brings us to the final message of my presentation. So, digital twins of the ocean are valuable because they can effectively reduce the decision latency, but only if the underlying data ecosystem is solid, is reliable, and is reusable. So this finishes my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Telmo, for such an enlightening lecture. Telmo is now happy to take questions from the audience. You can use the chat to place your questions. So, Telmo, thank you so much. We already have 2 questions here from Maria Anastasiado. And the first one, it's an interesting question. So what is the timeline to reach 100% mapping of the ocean under Portuguese responsibility?
Yes, thank you for the question. So the timeline is 2030. So there is a global project that is seabed 2030 that which goal is to achieve the complete mapping of the Earth, of the oceans of the Earth till 2030, and the Portuguese Navy has a Portuguese program that is CMAP 2030 that has the same goal. So the still how you'd say it, accomplishable goal is still 2030.
Okay, all right. And she has another question, which is how long are seabed maps valid since the seabed keeps changing?
Yeah, so the CMAP is for the program is normally is for depths that go beyond to 200 meters. So in this kind of depths, even if the changing of the seafloor and is not very important. So we are talking about great depths. So this is important in harbor areas or coastal areas. And in those areas, we have programs, for instance, that do the mapping every year, every 3 years, every 5 years. But for the global oceans, we are normally talking about one-time survey. And then if we need, we can go do another survey, but with better resolution, with other equipments to produce better resolution.
Okay, all right, thank you. So now we have a question from Artur Barbosa. It's about data availability. So the question is this available, this data and the virtual labs available to everybody or just to certain institutions?
No, the virtual labs that I showed, they are part of a project that is the Blue Cloud project. The Blue Cloud project also belongs to the EOSC, the European Open Science Cloud. So any user can log in to the platform and will have a dedicated space, and then he can download data to the user space, and then to process the data and create the products in the platform directly on the platform. So it's open for every user, and it has not an institutional, but a centralized login. So you can log in with accounts from other institutions, for instance, like ORCID, for instance, OrcID, you can log in with these credentials without the need to register as another user.
Okay, thank you very much. So while we wait for other questions from the audience, maybe I'll ask a question as well. So what do you think are the main challenges in integrating data from different marine sources? So you have the satellites, the buoys, the in situ sensors. So what are the challenges of this integration?
So the main challenges is to produce. So the data normally is in different formats. So you need to assure that all those formats are interoperable between them. You need to have tools to convert the different formats of the data. You also have to be sure that those data formats are using the same vocabularies. So when you are talking about sea surface temperature, you are talking about the temperature at the sea surface and not at 100-meter depth, for instance, so that you not mix different variables, different ocean variables. And also another thing very important is the metadata of the data. So the metadata basically is what describes the data as the access services, as the description of the data, as the licensing information of the data. So what you can do with the data. So I would say that would be the main components to integrate data from different sensors. So to convert between formats, to use common vocabularies, and also to have complete metadata.
Okay, all right, thank you. So we have a question from Augustine. Can you provide an estimated time to globally survey the ocean?
Yes, so the estimated time is 2030
For the
for the
whole world?
global. Yeah, because I said that the actual percentage is 28%, but like I said also in the presentation, there is also a large percentage of data that has already been acquired, but is not, we call it dark data, but is not public. So normally the percentage of survey that you need to do is not only for collecting new data, but also to find that dark data that exists but is not available yet.
Okay, all right, thank you. So, we have not talked about AI yet. So what is there any role to the emerging technologies such as AI, cloud computing in advancing these digital twins of the ocean?
Yeah, so I think the main use of artificial intelligence and machine learning is going to be the models. So nowadays, the models that we need to run every time to produce that products that were showed normally are numerical models that take too long to run, and they need high computational resources. And the machine learning can simplify these processes. So you can develop machine learning models that can replicate what the numerical models are doing. And in that way, you can do the same or achieve similar products with less computational resources. Also, for producing the tools that I presented of visualization and exploration of big amounts of data, of course, you'll need high performance computing to achieve that kind of level in the product.
Okay, so it seems that we don't have any more questions from the audience. Would you like to say any final words on any topic that was not covered or anything?
No, just to say that the basis of the digital twins. So digital twins is a concept that is very used nowadays. But do not forget the data. So the digital twins is like a product for helping you decide. So if you build your product with bad data or with not strong enough or solid enough infrastructure, you won't have good results on the digital twin application. So that's the main message.
Okay, thank you very much. So thank you all for your participation and for all of your thoughtful contributions to today's seminar. This session has offered us, I hope, valuable insights into how approaches are applied in practice, showing how marine data and digital twin technologies can support ocean monitoring. And it has been a pleasure to continue our celebration of the 25 years of UNIGIS Portugal and the Master in Geographic Information Systems and Science. This was the last UNIGIS talk for this academic year. We will come back in 2026-27 with more. So be attentive and see you all in a year from now. So thank you all. Thank you very much.